Color evokes emotion, sparks excitement, and grabs attention. It can help draw your eye where you want it on anything from a poster to a billboard to an email in your inbox. Color can even influence your mood. Did you know the color psychology behind a red and yellow combination makes you hungry? It's no wonder well-known fast food chains like McDonald's and KFC use red and yellow colors in their logos. Color theory is a set of principles for creating harmonious color combinations. It's a mixture of science and art. Understanding the fundamentals of color theory and where color comes from is important to know as a designer. Once you master it, you'll know how to create the best color combinations for your graphic and web design projects. If you don't believe color has an impact on your design, then take a look at this example. The only difference are the colors. Which one is pleasing to look at and which one makes your eyes want to explode. You've probably seen a color wheel in an early art class for school, but what is it and how can you use it to improve your designs? Once you understand the colors on the color wheel, the basic properties of color, and how to mix them, you'll understand how to create rich color combinations that not only make your design stand out, but create a better user experience. There are many versions of the color wheel, but for this video, we'll dive into a basic version. The color wheel is divided into 3 main categories. Primary colors are red, blue, and yellow. These are the 3 main colors you use to mix and create all of the other colors. When you mix 2 primary colors together, you get secondary colors, which are green, orange, and purple. Taking it one level further, when you mix a primary and a secondary color, you get tertiary colors. These colors are named after their parent: yellow-orange, red-orange, red-purple, blue-purple, blue-green, and yellow-green. There's so many cool color resources out there on the web. Check out this one that was created by Canva. I'll leave a link to it down below. The color wheel is divided in half by cool colors and warm colors. The warmth or coolness of a color is known as the color temperature. Think about how you can use warm and cool colors in your design projects to achieve a certain mood. Now let's go over a few color properties. A hue is pure color. Basically, it's any of the colors on the color wheel. Saturation refers to the intensity of a color. If you've ever used a saturation adjustment layer when editing photos in Photoshop, you know exactly how this affects the color intensity of your photo. If you move the slider to the right, you'll get brighter, more saturated colors, and if you move it to the left, you get desaturated or a grayscale image. And luminance refers to the amount of brightness or light in a color. A tint is created by adding white to a base hue, lightening the color. This lowers a color's intensity and is useful when balancing more vivid color combinations. A shade is created by adding black to a base hue. Essentially, it's darkening the color. This creates a deeper, richer color. A tone is created by combining black and white or gray with a base hue. A color scheme is a combination of colors that, when put together, create a harmonious match. As a designer, it's up to you to decide what color scheme suits the goal of your project. Let's break down a few of the main color schemes. For a monochromatic color palette, you use one hue, for example red, then use tints, shades, and tones to lighten or darken to make a harmonious color combination. Monochromatic color palettes can be pleasing to the eye, but remember to add contrast. If an entire website or app is in a monochromatic color scheme, it may be difficult for the user to find what they're looking for. Complementary colors are 2 colors on opposite sides of the color wheel. Due to high contrast, complementary colors can add fun and excitement to your designs, but just as with monochromatic color palettes, use it thoughtfully. You'll also want to add a few more colors, especially for the typography. A split complementary color scheme is a step beyond the complementary scheme. Instead of using only one color as a complement, you use 2 colors next to each other on the color wheel to complement your main color. In an analogous color scheme, there are 3 colors that sit right next to each other on the color wheel. An example would be yellow, yellow-orange, and orange. Analogous color palettes are a favorite of mine. Pairing this color scheme with a neutral and basics like white, black, and gray can create beautiful designs. A triadic color scheme are any 3 colors evenly spaced around the color wheel. Think of this as a triangle across the color wheel. To use a triadic color scheme successfully, the colors need to be carefully balanced. Allow one color in your design to dominate, while using the two other colors as accents. And a square color scheme are any 4 colors evenly spaced around the color wheel. What about RGB and CMYK? How do you know when to use which? Whether you use RGB or CMYK is highly dependent on what you're designing for. It's important to have a basic understanding of both color models to make sure you're designing in the right one. RGB stands for red, green, and blue. Essentially, you want to use the RGB color space whenever you're designing for something digital, whether that's a website or an app or anything that will be viewed on a screen. CMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Use this color space for any project that you intend to print, like a poster or a book. Now let's get into some tips for choosing color combinations. This is an example of vibrating colors. It happens when you put 2 high contrast colors together. Other examples might be blue and pink, green and orange, or red and purple. You want to avoid using these color combinations for a good user experience. Be sure to create a good balance of contrast. Try not to choose colors that are too similar in hue or value. You want your colors to provide contrast. When it comes to designing for the web, contrast is even more important to keep in mind for the typography. If your user can't read your message, then you're not communicating well with your design. When you're designing for the web, use a tool like this contrast checker. Once you add the foreground and background color, make sure it passes the test. I'll leave a link down below for this tool so you can check the contrast of your color combinations. Also factor in psychology. Color affects the mood of your design, so you want to have a general idea of color psychology when choosing your main colors. For example, red. It's often associated with anger, danger, heat, and passion. How many times have you been asked to make the CTA button red? Yes, red can help draw attention to a landing page, but if everything is red, then nothing is important. It's a strong color, so you want to use it sparingly to call attention. Blue is often associated with water, peace, and calm. Since blue is seen as a sign of stability and reliability, corporate companies often use blue for their logo and brand colors. However, if you're designing a logo for a company and you want to stand out, you may want to disrupt the industry by choosing a completely different color. Maybe you find it difficult to come up with color combinations from scratch on your own. A tip to inspire and help you find a good color palette for your next design project is to create a mood board. For a step-by-step guide on how to make a mood board, check out this video where I walk you through the process. And the last tip is to use Adobe Color. It's a tool I find myself coming back to over and over. You can use it to search and explore color combinations, and you can also upload photos and extract color palettes from it that way. And you can copy and paste the hex colors to easily add them to your design. So that was an overview of color theory and how to use it to come up with color combinations. And now I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below sharing with me how you choose your color combinations. Also, let me know what you want to see next. If you found this video helpful, give it a like and subscribe for more. I'll also link to a few other videos on the screen and in the description below that you might want to check out next.